Hi, I'm Lev Yilmaz, and I'm talking with Belletrist Coterie. It was, I went to art school, and so I had been drawing for years, and I'd also been doing video work for a long time. But I think that the thing that specifically got me started with doing the Tales of Mere Existence series was I think that whenever I would be out and I would be chatting with somebody at either a party or just in any sort of social situation, I began to realize that I didn't really have very much of a natural instinct to not be interrupted all the time, and it kind of got on my nerves to the point of where I sort of figured, well, okay, if I talk, I'm going to get interrupted all the time, but if I make some sort of short films that are saying what's really on my mind, then, I mean, people can interrupt a person an awful lot more easy than they can interrupt a short film. I think that it probably comes from just always kind of going back to just a state of experimentation in one way or another. And a lot of times, like that, if I feel like I'm getting sort of stale, if I did a piece and I didn't like it because I thought that it had gotten repetitive or stale in one way or another, this might sound counterintuitive, but the thing that I usually find that helps a lot is to actually set out to try to make the worst piece that I possibly can. And because if you go forth trying to make a really, really shitty piece, then all of a sudden, like a lot of your pretensions just fly out the window, and you feel very free, and that to try to do something that's purposely shitty, then all of a sudden it brings back a certain amount of kind of reckless abandon and fun that probably was what made you start feeling stale in the first place, is to lose that kind of that reckless sort of attitude. Only not in any way of the way that I actually produce it. Apart from getting a better camera and a better sound recorder, but apart from that, technology has only changed the way that I distribute it, I think. But I think kind of carrying on doing it the same way that I had been doing it is just mostly out of just thinking that I wasn't really done with this particular series. If I felt like I was done with it, I would probably change formats in one way or another. But I think that there's something that still actually kind of amuses me about using a technique that is so simple and that's so obviously very, very cheap and very easy to do. I think I think that there's actually something kind of funny about that, and the whole thing with using such a dumpy, low-tech technique in the first place was really was something that I'm going to go on a little bit about this. If you see a really hot shit, very well, beautifully animated, digitally animated piece, when you're watching it, there's part of your brain that's kind of like looking at it in this very critical way, saying that movement, I mean, that didn't look natural, or that's the way that they matted this thing over the fire, that looked so fake, and so you've got this critical eye that's trying to pick it apart like that. But I think that the very second that you see anything that I did, you know instantly that I'm not trying to impress you with a technique. That it really does look like something that anybody could have done, and I think that actually shuts the critical part of the brain off, and it makes you in turn actually start listening to what the piece is actually about. in very much the same way that that when you're if you're looking at Kermit the Frog, which is just like, you know, a hand in a sock, that that critical part of your brain will shut off, I think, in the exact same way. And so in a lot of ways, you know, a very, very simple puppet can actually become more realistic than something that was, you know, animated for like, you know, $9 gazillion like that. And it's a similar principle.
I found that personally I've wanted to take on a new identity because there's this weird part of my brain that believes that this will somehow magically erase every stupid thing I did with my last identity. But I think most of the time I would guess that a lot of people simply don't believe that they could develop an appealing identity by themselves. I don't know if anyone else thinks that much about this. Sometimes I wonder if a lot of people pay more attention to the kind of person that they don't want to be, and then whatever is left over is what they are. Well, I certainly know what I don't want to be. I don't want to be someone who sits around worrying about this shit, but at the moment I'm getting this sinking feeling that this is exactly what I am.
We take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music.
Dead true. Dead true, yeah. That I think that the whole idea behind it actually came from that, and then I mean the 3 or 4 elements that started the whole thing off were the technique, the whole way that Mystery of Picasso was filmed, combined with when I was in art school. There was a grad student whose name was Steve Davis, and he was wonderful with video. I wish he was still doing work, but he had done a very goofy, simple little piece where he was like drawing on a piece of paper and filming it, and he was just talking about marriage and having a child, and the way that he was reading that really struck me, and it stuck with me for a long time, and. So I remember, like, you know, telling him how much I liked this. I wanted to do something like it, and he was like, "Oh man, go ahead, do it. You know, I'm not going to do anything else with that." And mixed with that, and then obviously, I think the very early pieces, you know, I wasn't sure what the voice should be like, so I think I started with the comedian, kind of trying to read a little bit like the comedian Stephen Wright. And but those were the 3 elements, all of which I kind of took, put it together. But then the longer it went on, I mean, the more it evolved, and the more it sort of became its own thing. But I mean, but that was one of the things, you know, a teacher of mine in school was very adamant about, was saying that if you you know, that don't be afraid to steal, because if you kind of carry on with it, you know, that it will become your own thing, because you're not going to steal from just one place, you're going to steal from many, and then it turns into your own thing. If I tried to analyze that too much, then it would, you know, it might take some of the fun out of it. I don't really know. I mean, I think that to me, it was just more of a mood sort of thing, that like it looks like, you know, somebody is, you know, sitting half drunk in a bar and just writing shit down on a napkin, to me. And that's what it feels like to me. I mean, it's exaggerated to a degree, that although that I probably I mean, I don't think that I act like that, but I certainly sometimes think like that, and I tend to maybe push the, you know, the psychology back into like the point of view, maybe back to at least some part of adolescence, but at the same time that I was personally kind of surprised at how many of the things that people would always say that oh yeah, well, you have these thoughts, these ideas when you're in adolescence. I was surprised at how long they actually took to go away, and so So even though that no, I don't really act like that, I find it surprisingly easy to actually to think like that. If that, I think that might have answered at least 65% of the question.